Life is full of unexpected turns, and sometimes stepping into the new chapter means leaving people, places, and versions of yourself that no longer fit behind. In this chapter, we'll talk about finding happiness in the now and learning from what didn't work and trusting yourself to know that it still all works out. Are you escaping or are you enjoying? Let's get into it. All right, guys, this is crazy and wild to me because I just came up on 2 years since I moved to Nashville. And so let's be real. I feel like there should have been a round of applause. Let's be real. Like, woo, the crowd goes wild. But it just feels huge for me because I was getting my like Snapchat memories. It's kind of like how I stored a lot of my like this whole mess of my life was like sending it to my friends back home or just keeping some stuff just for myself. And there was a video that I recorded when I first got to my Airbnb in East Nashville. And I was like, looking at it, I was like, dude, that girl had no idea what was going to be in store for the next 2 years of her life, or even what she was going to do at all at that period of time in her life. And I'm just like so proud of that moment. And I just wanted to talk about entering new chapters and, just embracing the journey and being able to look back and be like, I am really proud of myself. I got to a really different place in my life and it wasn't easy, right? And I think there was something that I saw the other day that was like, if you think you haven't went that far, you haven't came that far in your life, think back to where you were last year. Would you go back? And when you think back, when you have that kind of like timeline to look back on, you do realize how much you've grown and how much you should be grateful for the amount of changes that you've made in your life in that timeline. But I think all of us just don't give ourselves enough credit. So here's the pause moment for pat yourself on the back, because I know that you have made some major improvements in the last year, let alone 2 years since I moved to Nashville. So think of where you were 2 years ago and how much has likely changed. So I kind of wanted to get into just really what I've been leaning into in this new chapter for me. So much has shifted. I don't even know if I'm hoping, I know I cannot be the only one, where there just becomes a point. It's almost like a snake. I don't know about this analogy, but I worked at a pet store right after high school. So bear with me here. And I'm not afraid of snakes, right? So snakes would be like, sometimes I had to like clean snake cages for a minute there, and they shed their skin, as we know. But it's like, I feel like that is just how they grow, right? They get bigger, so they have to shed their skin, and it's like an ongoing thing. Well, I'm feeling very like snake-like in that sense that I moving to Nashville, I shed so much. I left everything that I ever knew. And now here I am shedding my skin again, I feel like 2 years later from that person that just had no idea what she was getting herself into, but knew that it felt better than where she was before. And I think that's like a true reminder for us all to think about sometimes, is that you can jump before you know how you'll land. Because if you'd rather jump and just with the blind faith that you'll land and be just fine, than stay where you are, that tells you you're ready to jump. And I sometimes think you should jump even when you're not ready, right? I mean, but for sure, if you're even considering it, just go. Let's go. Just do it. Because you will always know in here if it's time for you to make a move. I want to tell you that much. You will always know. And so I'm looking back and I'm just like, I knew I didn't know what I was doing. And now I feel that way again. And it's been this like really crazily emotional time for me. Still leaning into super happy and grateful, but just I think you're lost before you're found, right? And it's in that where it's a little bit lost, but I'm just taking the breadcrumbs of how I'm to be found. And I've been listening to like different songs that kind of took me back, which I'm like, Heather, stop doing that. Stop going to the past with the music that takes you there. But down country music and the Riley Green version. I know it's Tim McGraw's. And if it's someone before that, I feel bad. I should have looked that up. But there's a line that says, like, I quit my job, let my mama down, broke an angel's heart on the way out of town. I pulled my roots from the ground for. And that for is just, I didn't know what for. I just knew it wasn't going to be my life anymore. And so I I'm so thankful for that wildly messy person that I was who just decided that this is what she was going to do, because I wouldn't even be here right now if she didn't. And now that I'm entering this new chapter, which the podcast called Wandering the Wild Mess, and I feel the mess is there. Don't get me wrong. I do have a Gatlinburg story that I'll have to squeeze in here at some point. But uh it's again that snake shedding its skin. And if you've ever been there before, and I'm sure you have, there's always this like pullback that you want to go back to being that person. It's as if I was in my old life in Utah, his wife, all those things. Then I came here 2 years ago and I was like, no identity, didn't know who I was, just a big lost mess. And now I feel like I'm entering this new chapter, and there's a part of me that like wants to hold on to the messy girl. So there's the wife and then the mess, and then now I'm moving in this different direction. And it's like you have to shed your skin every time. You just have to let it go. Like you're not holding the snake doesn't cuddle up with the skin that it shed. It's done with it. It's moved on. It's new skin. It's owning who it becomes. And I am, in that place where I'm trying to figure out what that looks like for me, because I know that that also means like shedding parts of my life and things that I prioritized, or people that were more relevant, or things in my life that I gave time to, I may move away from. And that always feels, I don't know, you just you don't want things to change sometimes because they were so good for you, but maybe they're just not good for you anymore, I guess, is what I'm kind of saying. And I want to like really to give an idea of how it felt. I wrote a poem about this, and don't get all like, oh, a poem. It's very much like a much more like deeper, darker side of what the last 2 years were like for me. And I know I've shared a lot with y'all on here. And really, I promise you that I feel so called to do this because I want y'all to know that someone that could seemingly have their life together, which I don't know. I mean, a lot of people appear that way. But I really felt like I did a great job at appearing that everything was put together. And it wasn't that bad. I'm not going to act like my life was like the lowest of low, but there's a lot of things I haven't shared that were really hard. And for me to just be vulnerable with y'all, I want it to just show you that we're all just humans figuring it out. And I say that every time, but I'm really here to remind you of that truth, because I feel like even in my own mind, it's isolating sometimes when I think I'm going through something and no one else understands. And today was actually a perfect example, because a girl that I've recently been introduced to in my life, which is just crazy that the people that have came into my life since I've shifted a little. And she and I had some similar stories, and she left her home state and came here and kind of you know, started anew. And she has been like shifting her priorities and things and just like sent me a voice note and was like, "Hey, I feel like you can relate. This is how I'm feeling." And immediately, once she like came to me and said that, I just felt so like, oh my gosh, like it felt so good to just hear someone else was kind of going through this too. And it just reconfirmed to me that the power of like knowing we're not alone when we're going through something is huge. It shifts it. For some reason, we're like, yeah, this is really hard, but we're like, but someone else, not that you want someone else to be struggling, of course not. But knowing that this struggle you don't have to go through with no one else understanding what it's like, whether it's uprooting your life, whether it's trying something new, whether it's making new friends, prioritizing different things, setting boundaries, becoming your best self, knowing that you're not a bad person for not being perfect or not having all the answers or not having this the house by then or the dream job by then or that these whole timelines. No matter what, you're worthy right now. You're important right now. And I just want that reminder to stay true. So I'm going to give you a little bit of this struggle of my last 2 years. I'm kind of being delayed here because I feel like, oh, never mind. Okay, good. Amazon driver was coming and I felt like the dog was going to freak out, but he was a silent one. All right. So back to 2 years and all the feels. And I want you to listen as if you know what it felt like in your life when you had to start something all over or something left you that you didn't know it would go or, whatever it was. Here it goes. Crossed the state line, didn't know what was coming, entered a new life all of a sudden. Not knowing a soul, but my soul longed to live. Couldn't find a back road with my lost sense of self. Fake put together like you do. Heart will whisper the way. Nothing left to prove. It's new and it's shiny as I lay alone in an Airbnb bed. Who am I anymore? Winner of holding back tears. Everything you worked for, lost in a blink. No one to talk to, tequila bottle by the sink. Smothered in the thought of life, drowning in future fear. Blind faith kept the lights off. It's dark in here. Stumbling through the days, can't seem to open my eyes, covering the truth that I haven't got it right. Late nights lead to daylight, nothing feels like myself. Head pounds to the rhythm of this can't be it. Reflecting to find answers, when will it make sense? Battling with, did I leave everything I knew for this? What am I doing? Why are my bad choices so loud? Pouring a glass of wine won't turn them down. This person I don't know, keeping my nights later than before, looking for something not found at Red Door. I'm searching for calmness, but moving towards mess, holding on to the hurt, longing to stay on the fence. Let go of what once was, let's do that once more. It's time to heal wounds that crippled my core. No longer so lost, 2 years to be found. Smiling for real, in this life I am proud. The chaos and confusion led me to this. Life takes you through lessons. If you blink, you miss. It's all a mirror and I'm happy to see I found myself in Nashville and it brought me to me. So that's kind of really what it felt like to be so lost and now found. And when I reflect back on that, I mean, I can see every last tear, every move I made, all of the things that brought me to like all of the things where I'm like, who is this person? And I, again, have said this before, like, it's not like I didn't like rob a bank or, commit some crazy crime or something that people are like, "Who am I?" But, like, even the actions, I think, when we identify and it's not even our identified ones, right? Like, obviously, I was doing things that didn't feel like a wife, and that always feels misaligned for me, and I'm not saying, like, everyone has to be a wife, etcetera, like, I know that's not for everyone, but for me, like, I knew being, like, a loyal partner was, like, something I enjoyed, and so obviously, I felt far from ready to be one because my life just felt so messy, and I just didn't even know how to include someone in it. Like, I remember someone I had spent time with a while ago, it was like a year ago, and it came up because I, like, posted a TikTok about this actually because of the song, but I remember he, like, kinda wanted to have, like, the talk, and I was like, I'm not trying to have a talk. He lives downtown. It's convenient. I can like sleep over. And like that sounds really rude, but I liked him. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, like, I wasn't trying to like find a boyfriend at the time. This is before I had one, the only one I've had. And I was like, why don't you just send me a song and tell me how you feel? And he, like, sent me this song that was like, okay, wait, More Than One Night by, Caden Wallace. You'll have to listen. And I literally heard it and I was like, "You are a jerk, Heather. You need to stop talking to him." And, like, I don't even remember what I, like, ended up saying back, but it was clear that I was a jerk. Not that I said anything like a jerk, but anyways, that ended, and I just thought, like, "What am I doing? I'm just so messy, like, I'm just, like, having fun, and I just don't wanna bring anyone in this because I just don't know what I'm doing." And even in that one relationship that I did have, I felt the same. Like, I learned so much from it, so I'm thankful, and I agree that you don't have to have your whole life together when you bring someone into your world, but I definitely know that girl was just she didn't know. She really didn't know. And I feel like I'm finally don't get me wrong, I'm not, like, saying I have all the answers now, but I'm finally at this, like, peaceful place, and I want to kinda share that with y'all on the importance of just rolling with all of the phases of our life, all of the times, everything ebbs and flows, and you really sometimes you have to become everything that you're not to find out who you are. And I'm not saying like do everything like completely out of like your morals and standards and whatever and be like, "Well, that's not me." Like I get it. That's a little obvious. But sometimes like I mean, if I would have been like, would my old self do this? I would have been like, no to pretty much most of the things that I did in the last 2 years. I mean, okay, paddleboarding, okay, my old self would have done that. But like there was a lot of times. There was a lot of things that I was like, there is no way I would have done that. And, usually, like, sometimes it can be fun. Like, okay, there's no way old me would have just, like, jumped on this plane and went to go meet this guy that she's never met before and then have this great time in Knoxville and have it change her whole life, right? For that one, did it feel misaligned? No, because it was exactly what I needed and it was amazing. So, in that regard, I learned something that I wouldn't do is something that's safe and okay and feels good for me to do or felt good for me to do. Other things in this 2 years that I am not too proud of, it's not in alignment with what's good for you because you don't feel better about it. You don't feel happier, you don't feel lighter, you don't feel better that it happened. And I think we all have those moments in our life where we can think of something that we've done, said, went to, like, we're like, after the fact, we're like, that didn't make me feel good. And I want to challenge you to be thoughtful of those times where you're doing something in your life and you're like, this just doesn't feel good. And if you feel that way, why do you keep doing it? Why do you do it again? Is it because it's like that short term little endorphins or dopamine hit or whatever. And then you kind of like forget the long-term feeling after the fact. So like just chasing that dopamine in the moment feels better than how bad it feels the next day. Whether that's too much whiskey or spending time with someone that just doesn't make you feel good. And that's one thing that I'm really centering this whole new chapter of my life around is doing things that fuel my soul, that make me feel good, that make me feel better after I leave, that make me feel like I am 100% happy, proud, satisfied, like good with what I did. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not claiming here I'm going to be like Mrs. Perfect, 2.0. I mean, I am going to be pretty great. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying that that is a goal of mine. And I do this thing, I want to share it cuz I want to help if you're thinking about getting yourself into a new chapter is writing down who you want to be, but as if they are who you are. What do you want your life to look like? You probably have an idea. And again, we let go of what we thought our life should look like and we go with it. But at the end of the day, we know how we want to show up in the world. So if we take the time to just jot down, like, what do you want to think about yourself? If you were describing your perfect self to someone, the ideal you, what would you say? And it's such a it's such a huge shift in your mindset when you start really thinking about that. I'm getting all a little deep on y'all, but because you realize like what things in your life are preventing that you from being who you are. Like what habits, where you spend your time, who you spend your time with, and how you really think about yourself day to day. I think for me, that's one of the biggest things. Literally, I could tear up because I remember how like I'm a crybaby, but like just thinking about the people I've met in this past 2 years, which I'm so grateful for. And so many of them, more than not, have just not known their worth. And like when I think of each of the people that I've like sat down and like really talked to, because I love to yap, and there's just been people that I've just been so great for them to just like tell me their heart. And I promise you, the most amazing people that I've spoken with have no idea how amazing they are. They don't talk about or think of themselves the way that I see them. And I wish they could. And I wish that of you. I wish that you could see yourself for all of the things that you are, because that allows you to enter the new chapter. You're going to replay the same character script of who you are right now and all the things you can or can't do, whatever you're deciding. I've said it before. That's just the chapter you're in. And in this last 2 years of Nashville, I think I kept repeating the script of for the plot, which is actually fun. So, I throw that in still. Like, let's not get carried away. I still want to do things for the plot. But like for the plot, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm messy. Like I'm not in it. Like all of these things. Everything I told myself that my life was like I'm emotional. I'm like, all these things. I'm overwhelmed. I'm this, I'm that. Like those played out in life. That's what I got. That's what was shown back to me. But there was a lot of good things. Like I was like, oh, men are great. People are good. And then I met great men that were respectful and this and that. So like I did have my mind right in a lot of ways. Oh, I'll meet fun people. I met fun people, right? Like all of these things. But I'm just saying whatever you kind of like expect from a reality is what you're going to get back. And for me, I kind of just expected, well, I've been divorced and I moved to this new state and it's chaos and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm so messy. And I just kind of leaned into that. And then I was like, enter character, messy AF. And I guess I'm like kind of done being her. There was like so many times where I was like, okay, that didn't feel good. That didn't feel good. That didn't feel good. And I'm not saying I'm never going to do things in my life again that I'm like, that didn't feel good, because you live, you learn. But I'm definitely in that place to be mindful now of like, if you keep playing the same song, you're not going to hear a different tune, you know? I think it just hit me. So I'm really leaning into just, am I enjoying my life or am I escaping it? And I just am so happy. I don't want to escape anymore. I'm here to live my life and I'm still being spontaneous. Don't get me wrong. I have an upcoming trip and I have a one-way ticket and we'll figure it out. So I feel like in those ways, I'm still a little like, I don't give a, but, but there's other things that I'm like, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore, or few and far between. And the hard thing is even when I say it, y'all, and I wish like, is I don't know. Like I felt like when I was going through the motions of my previous life, this wasn't so such a factor. But do we all feel that we get lost between who feels fun to be and who we know we're meant to be? Who feels easy to be and who we're meant to be? I guess I'll give you one last comparison before because I've thought about this, is during like some things that came up and I thought about me clinging on to this previous me for a time was really like going back, and I would never say I like had a toxic ex, but I've known like men that have went back to like people they think are kind of like toxic, and for the sheer like just random entertainment of like that was just easier to manage than a put together woman that they had to be like on their A game for, right? And so they would know they wanted like a put together woman that could be like a lifetime partner, someone they could do all the things with, da 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 da, like good head on her shoulders, blah blah blah. But they found themselves like going back to like the rowdy, toxic. I mean, I don't know, define toxic, rowdy, but the one that they're like not really seeing, that's not really what they want for their life. But they go back anyways because it's just like easy. And I'd be like, "Well, like what's easy about it? Because you're like not getting closer to where you want to be." And they're like, "I don't know, it just kind of like feels good in the moment. It's just I'm scared, so I just keep doing that." And I was like, "That just seems weird, but like I get it because that's what it's like when you're evolving into this next chapter is you're kind of like, well, gosh, I'm kind of like the messy me. That was just like fun. And I just like, nah, nah, and I didn't really have to be on my A game and I didn't have to like get up for like a 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock Pilates class or, you know, cycle. Cause I was just like, I can sleep in a little, and they're like two different worlds, it was like two different mindsets. One, becoming that person that you want to be takes additional discipline and focus on things that you want to do, but like aren't what you're currently doing. So you have to like recalibrate your life. And so sometimes you're just like, okay, well, that was just easier when I could just be like messy over here, even though that's not what I want for the rest of my life. So it seems like at some point in time, you got to hang up your boots. Hang up your boots. Hang up. I don't know. Yeah. Hang up your boots. Okay. You got to hang them up, put them on a hanger. Hang your hat. Either way, do you know what I'm saying? So, and that's kind of where I am. And I think it's going to be the most exciting chapter for all of us, really. I'm coming up. I'm going to wrap this up because I'm coming up on 1 year of the podcast, which is wild to me. Wild to me. And that was like a really pivotal time when I started the podcast too. So it's so crazy. And I have like a special little treat for y'all that I want you to just enjoy. So I can't wait to share that. Also, always reminder, Wandering the Wild Mess. You can get your affirmation cards. You can ask me a question. You can find all my social media, all the things. And don't forget to give the pod a 5-star rating and tell me what you want to hear about. And remember that you can become whoever you want to be. There's nothing stopping you but the way you think about yourself. So I'm changing it up. I'm thinking about a whole new Heather, and I'm super excited about it. And I thank you for just being here through the mess and entering this new chapter with me. There's going to be so many exciting things. It'll still be messy, but this is like a big self-reflection on like when you enter a new chapter. I think a lot of people are feeling the shift in life, and I want you to know you don't have to stay where you've always been. You don't. This has been Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. You matter.